I'll never not be amazed by the bass tone on your sound clips. Holy balls.
We're going to be using the Dingwall Combustion 5. It is 37 inches in scale and it is tuned to G0. I've been doing this kind of sound for a really long time, and I've been doing it a number of different ways. There is no real one way to do it. Hello, I'm the Bun. Welcome to the channel. This here is Baritone Obsessed. This is a show all about guitars that are a bunch longer, so going a whole bunch lower. The 4 ways that we're going to approach making these sounds is number 1 with a DI and an overdrive. Number 2, the Wounded Paw Bass 701 bass amp head and some IRs, because the bass amp is way too loud in this room. Number 3 with a VST plugin, the Parallax plugin. And number 4, my Helix tone that I use all the time, my main sound. First thing we're gonna do is just listen to each one without guitars. We're gonna listen to it with drums so you get an idea of how the sound interacts with something, but there will be no guitars so you can actually hear the bass sound. First one is the ODB and DI. Let's check it out. So that's that one. Next one is going to be the Wounded Paw, the Bass 701 bass amp. And moving on, we've got the Parallax, the Neural DSP plugin, direct into the interface and just the plugin. And last but not least, the Helix. This is my main 4-ins tone, and yeah. This is our configuration for the split tone using pedals and a DI, just everything going direct. At the beginning, we have the radial big shot ABY. We're splitting the signal with this. And on one side, that's going to the tuner, the gate, and the overdrive. And on the other side is just going straight to the JDI. Both the overdrive and the DI are going direct into the interface. Some will definitely ask about the blend function on the ODB3. And they'll say, Bun, it has a blend function. Why are you doing this split? You can just blend it right on the pedal. And the answer is, for this setup, I can't get what I want out of just the blend. I need to split it completely and just use the overdrive from the ODB3, and we're going to get our clean signal from the DI and do it that way. The ODB3 does sound awesome. When I use this with an Ampeg SVT3 Pro and an 810, I can get exactly what I want out of it just direct into the amp. But in this case, I'm not getting what I want out of it, so I'm splitting it, and yeah, it's great for today's example. For the direct amp sim tone with the Parallax, we're using the radial JDI DI box into the Presonus. Some will ask, Bun, can't you just go directly into the Presonus with the guitar cable? And the answer is yes, but it peaks a lot easier and it's a less smooth signal. So I can get a way better signal with the JDI. So for those of you who have a cheap interface, I have a really cheap interface, the JDI really helps. For the Wounded Paw amp tone, we are going directly into the amp and then directly out of the amp into the interface. And we're using an IR instead of a cabinet just because the amp is way too loud to actually record in this room. For those of you not familiar with the Bass 701 by Wounded Paw, it has this very unique multi-band overdrive EQ type section. This multi-band overdrive section is why we can sort of separate the cleaner bottom end with the gainier top end. Last on the list is the Line 6 Helix. This is the Stomp, obviously. This is sort of a hybrid split path. You'll notice that we're going analog out of the Helix to analog in on the interface. Some folks will ask, why are you going analog when you can go digital? For myself, I like how I can monitor the Helix when I use it analog out to analog in. I have less options in terms of monitoring the sound of the Helix when I use it digital. Expanding the mixer and taking a look at each one independently. What is happening with the processing? This is not like a tutorial. You're gonna have to take these ideas and adapt to them to your own plugins, your own workflow. Looking at the blend-in signals for the DI and overdrive, you'll notice these are the independent channels and they're feeding into this group master. So if we turn that all the way off and we play it, nothing. Great. So I've got them mixed the way that I think sounds good. On the clean side, you'll notice we have an EQ, a compressor, a IR, a EQ again after the IR, and a limiter. On the dirty side, we have a compressor, a IR, a post EQ, and a post limiter. And on the group master, we have an EQ and a limiter. It took quite a bit of shaping and processing to get this tone to work. This is what it sounds like with the guitars. Next on the list is the Wounded Pod. This is what it sounds like just with the drums. Wounded Pod took a lot less processing. It just sounds kind of good on its own. It's going directly into the IR, then a post EQ, pretty modest post EQ, and then a post limiter. Let's listen to the Wounded Pod with the guitars in. Sounds sick. Up next is the Parallax. Let's listen to the Parallax just with the drums. Taking a look at what's going on with the Parallax channel, we have the Parallax, obviously. We're going directly into the Parallax. We're not using this mid control here. We're just using the low and the high portion, and we're kind of using this natural dip in the crossover to tighten up the mids, the loose part of the mids, the 300 to 500 zone, which is often very loose sounding, boxy sounding. Next thing is an external IR. I'm not using the impulse response of the Parallax because I find it sounds extremely thin. I want the 810 sound with the RE20, so not available in the Parallax. Then following that with an EQ, a very modest EQ, and a final limiter. What does the Parallax sound like with guitars? Is the Helix. Let's take a listen to what the Helix sounds like just with the drums. This is my Bunsonics Foreigns Helix tone. So if you pick up that pack, this is the same bass tone in there. It's very simple. It's just the Helix tone, and then I have a post EQ and a post limiter. This is what the Helix tone sounds like with guitars. example would not be complete without comparing all of them back to back. So let's listen to all of it with everything in, all the guitars in. Here we go. I'd love to know if this was helpful in any way. Let me know in the comments down below. But otherwise, that's it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you in the next one.